Welcome back. Are you ready to read the next chapter on Mystery of Pine Lake? Chapter 26, I believe, is where we left off. If they are lucky enough, loons can live to be 25 to 30 years old. After our family meeting, Mom went back to work so she could train pack rats, Mom. Molly raced around the house yelling, "Monday, Monday, Monday," since that's the day we'd all voted on. She made Dad show her where it was on the calendar so she could keep track of all our family days. Dad told me to rest up. Roy can muddle through on his own today. He says he used to see you clean the bathrooms all the time, but we should still train him so he'll be ready for Monday. That had Molly chanting and dancing all over again. "Go," Dad said to Pack Rat and me as he lifted a giggling Molly onto his shoulders. "I've got her for a bit." At the game room, I stood at the window with my elbow on the sill, chin in my hand. Pack Rat played pinball. Finally, a girl who was sitting on the pool table juggling the balls asked the question I'd been trying not to scream at the sky for hours. How long is this stupid rain going to last anyway? Pack Rat stepped away from his game and pulled out a handheld radio. He turned it on. Everyone crowded around. "Wind gusts up to 45 miles an hour in some spots. 1.5 to 2 inches of rain expected in most areas. Rain ending by late afternoon." Everyone started talking at once. "There goes swimming," one kid said. "We could still do it in the rain," argued another. "You're already wet." "I was so going to take you in basketball," a third kid said to a fourth. "My parents wanted to hike the nature trail tomorrow. You think the path will be flooded?" As the kids moaned and groaned and started talking over each other, Roy came running in. Throwing back his hood, he shook water off himself and onto the floor. "Better watch that," I said. Roy looked at me sharply. I grinned back. "Dad'll make you mop it up." When Roy's shoulders relaxed and he smiled back, I asked, "How were the bathrooms?" "Not bad," he said. "I'd rather clean 10 boys' rooms than 1 girl's room, though. Do you know how much stuff they take in there? It takes them hours." Pack Rat and I laughed. "Any word on your island, raft, whatever you called it?" he asked. The heavy weight of the what-ifs fell on me again. "I called Brent, but he can't see it through all the rain. Mom and Dad won't let us go out on patrol." Roy nodded. He started talking to Pack Rat while I turned away to watch the rain fall. I imagined life if the loon raft was lost, or if it tipped so the eggs fell to the bottom of the lake. The campers would all leave. Maybe they'd even be mad at me and tell their friends not to camp here. "He's the kid who messed up the loon's nest," they'd say. "Couldn't even protect them from the rain." Then Mom and Dad would have to fire all the new help and put things back the way they were. Through my crazy thoughts, I heard Roy say, "Tom drove in." I whipped around. "Tom's here?" Roy nodded. "He's in the store, having coffee with your dad." "Why didn't you say so? Maybe he's seen something." The 3 of us pulled our sweatshirt hoods up. Roy buttoned his raincoat, and we lined up under the porch facing the store. The sky looked a little brighter than before, but the rain was still coming down as if someone had left a humongous faucet on up above. "Okay," said Roy, "if I get there first, you 2 have to." Pack Rat and I took off. Roy yelled, laughed, and chased us. I could hear his footsteps pounding behind me. I tried to dodge the puddles, but finally gave up. The whole road was one big puddle. When I felt my toes slashing inside my shoes and socks, I knew I'd get one of Mom's famous "What on earth were you thinking" looks. I wondered if she'd forget all about it if I put my hand to my head and pretended to feel faint. The 3 of us burst through the store door, laughing and tossing back our hoods. We all looked like dogs who just fetched a stick from the lake. I shook my head. Water flew everywhere. Pack Rat and Roy threw their hands in the air and hollered at me. I heard Tom's voice in the back of the store and jogged toward it. Tom and Mom sat at one of the 3 tables in the coffee area. Dad leaned against a nearby counter. "I know you're off today," Dad said to me, "but if you carried a radio, it'd be easier to get a hold of you. Tom's been looking for you." "I forgot to take it. Sorry." I smiled at Tom. He did not meet my eyes. Not a good sign. Cooper? Tom finally looked up at me. I have something to tell you. It's about the loons, isn't it? My eyes stung, but there was no way I was crying in front of the guys. I stood tall and squared my shoulders. Yes. Tom wrapped his hands around the coffee cup and stared into it. I've been trying to tell you all along. The first time, I got interrupted. After that, it was harder and harder to admit. Huh? All along? The first time? Tom looked at me. I finally understood what he was trying to say. You put the board in the dam? Behind me, Roy and Packrat had stopped joking and shoving each other. I glared at Tom. You? Why? Not for the reasons you'd think. It was the weeds. They were so thick last year that I clogged up a motor and it died. I didn't want to lose a brand new one, so I pounded the board in the dam. Tom leaned across the table, his eyes begging me to listen. Cooper, really, I didn't know the lake would rise so high. I should have done more research. Maybe talk to Mr. Wentworth or the warden. When you told me the eggs had drowned, well, I wanted to run back and pull the board out. But you said the warden didn't want that, and it would be a bigger mess. What if the other animals had nested after the water had gotten so high? I nodded. I almost confessed again that time I came by and you were building the raft, and instead I did that news report to educate the public about loons and the dangers of playing with the water level of a lake. I even used your campground name to bring in more business. Tom sighed. When you accused Mr. Bakeman yesterday of putting the board in, I knew I was still being a big chicken. I had to come clean so you'd know who'd really done it. He paused, sighed, and turned his coffee cup in his hands. I already confessed to the game warden. She's not pleased with me either. What could I say? It's all right seemed lame, and it wasn't all right. I swallowed. Can you forgive me for not being brave enough to tell you the truth? Are we still friends? I'd really like to keep an eye on your loons for you this summer. Maybe do a follow-up report on them. I wasn't sure what to say. I wasn't ready to forgive, but I was finding it hard to be mad at Tom. So I used one of Dad's tricks. I changed the subject. Did you see the loon raft today? I asked. Tom shook his head sadly. The rain was coming down too hard. I drove over. I was detoured twice. He looked at my dad. Lots of washouts around town. But your driveway's still okay. Makes your teeth chatter, though. Dad nodded. Tom, you're welcome here any time. People make mistakes. He looked at Mom, then at me, with a knowing look. I smiled a little smile. And you helped catch Mr. Bakeman. Tom picked up his cowboy hat and nodded sadly at Mom. I appreciate that. He thanked Dad for the coffee, then turned to me and held his hand out for me to shake. Thanks, Cooper. I owe you one. A big one. Remember to call if you need anything or stop by. Tom started out, but turned when he reached the doorway. You, Cooper Wilder, will make a great game warden someday. Keep doing what you're doing. Tom put on his hat and pushed it back with one finger. And by the way, did you notice it stopped raining? And that's the end of chapter 26. One more chapter to go. What's your prediction? Do you think the loons are going to make it? Do you think that the eggs will hatch? Or do you think maybe the rising water of the lake tipped the nest again and all the eggs were lost? Well, when you come back again, we will take a look. We will read the chapter and we will see what happens. Till then,